Welcome back to Retro Bytes, and this is not my desk. This is not my phone, and that's not me. Yep, I was chatting with my brother about how April kind of turned out to be emulation month here on Retro Bytes, and then we got to talking about how I've been really busy getting ready for softball with my girls this season, and he reckoned that he could help me out a little bit. I said he had this really cool device that was pretty cool at emulating old systems, and that it was a phone. Intrigued, I asked him to record some video and send it on over to me. And yeah, so that's what this is. Without further ado, I'm going to hand controls over to my little brother so that he can tell you about this cool looking cell phone he's got.
Welcome to Retro Bytes, and this is the Sony Ericsson Experia Play. This is no ordinary Sony Experia phone, though. This one has an actual built-in PlayStation controller. Now, what makes this phone so interesting, obviously aside from the fact that it has a built-in controller, was that this was a terrible phone, even from the outset. Rocking a 1 GHz Qualcomm Snapdragon S2 MSM8255 single-core processor, a whopping 512 megabytes of RAM, and get this, only 400 megabytes of internal storage. Even when this phone was released back in March of 2011, it was underpowered and hardly capable of doing anything. So let's go ahead and take a look at the Experia Play. Let's see what kind of phone it really is, shall we? When Sony released this, they had pretty big plans. They were originally planning on bringing essentially full compatibility with all original PlayStation 1 titles. If you wanted it, you could have it. Sadly, the only game that was ever released for it officially was Crash Bandicoot. As you can see, there's the full complement of circle, cross, square, and triangle buttons, your 4 D-pad buttons, and then 2 touch joysticks, as well as a start, select, and on the back you have a left and right trigger. Now, when emulating, you can also use the volume rocker as an L2 and R2. Oh yes. That's some good old school Crash goodness. So I know what you're all really wanting to know is, how good does the touch joypad work? Well, sad to say, in the official release for Crash Bandicoot, it doesn't. Alright, I think that's about enough of that for the time being. Now let's go ahead and see what everyone really wants to see. So when you close that, reopen it, it opens your Experia Play menu. Now this device is truly meant for emulation. So let's jump in and see how good it can handle Super Retro 16. Now thankfully, a lot of developers for the emulation scene have gone ahead and added support for the controller. So if you were to buy one of these, you just jump right in and start playing. I never said I was any good. And I notice almost no input lag. So surprisingly, this underpowered phone can handle these 2D games like a champ. But let's see how well it can handle something a little more advanced.
Here we go!
And this game actually did originally release on the PlayStation as Mega Man Legends, as well as being released on the Nintendo 64 as Mega Man 64. So, can it run natively a game that ran on the PlayStation?
Wait a second. Should be a Reaver bot around there somewhere. See it? It looks like a small one. You should be able to take it down with your buster gun.
Oh no. Oh no! I did it again! There we go. Now here's the fun part. Trying to use the volume rocker as your 2 buttons gets a little bit hard to do. Especially when, in this particular game, in order to turn you have to use the 1 button. So trying to lock on while turning, not exactly the easiest of tasks. So does it work? Yes, it does. It can handle Super Nintendo, regular Nintendo games like a champ. However, would I recommend using this to emulate any newer titles? Honestly, I'm not so sure I would.
Do you see a door? That should be the way out. It's not far from your current position.